Hey guys, so today we are going to be talking about the Long Island serial killer, also known as Gilgo Beach Killer. The identity of the killer is still unknown. The material I discuss in this video is based solely on research that I have done myself and on my opinion. It's not meant to interfere with the case itself because it is a still ongoing case and it is still open. And as always, viewer discretion is advised. Since 2011, 11 bodies were found in New York, Long Island. We didn't know it at the time, but discovering these bodies would open up a bunch of doors to a corrupt police department. Were they trying to cover it up for the serial killer? Was it the work of multiple serial killers? Was this just a dumping ground for dead prostitutes? That's what it seemed like. Let's find out. So to begin this case, I do have to tell you about Shannon Gilbert. She's pretty much the reason why all these bodies were found, in my opinion. Shannon was born on October 24th, 1986. She graduated from high school at like 16 years old. So to me, that's telling me that she was pretty freaking smart. She supported herself throughout college. She was dreaming of becoming a writer. And she needed a boost of income. So she decided that in 2007, she wanted to start working in the sex industry. Prostitution. But at that time, she was an escort. She would make almost like $250 an hour. That's a lot of money. And she would spend it on lavish goods for her family, for her younger sisters, and just pretty much spend it on whatever she wanted. Shannon was diagnosed bipolar and would have like really bad frantic mood swings. And when she found out, she was dabbling into some drugs as well. And when her family found out that she was escorting and doing these drugs and that she was bipolar, they were really worried and concerned and were very vocal about it and said that she shouldn't be doing it. She needs to be very careful. But Shannon really assured them that she'd be okay, that that stuff would never happen to her. Shannon soon started to book her own clients through Craigslist. She would post ads on Craigslist, and she even hired her own driver to drive her around to these appointments. His name was Michael Pack. Sorry. His name was Michael Pack, and he was pretty much just supposed to be her driver. He would drop her off at these appointments and she would call him to come pick her up. And when she was in trouble, he would also act as like her bodyguard. Shannon's mother reported her missing on May 1st in 2010. And her mother and her sisters took off almost immediately to pretty much start their own investigation and trying to find her. So they found out that Shannon came to a gated community located on Oak Beach on Long Island. So they started asking around the residents, knocking on doors, asking the neighbors, did you guys see anything? If you did, please help me find my young girl. Little did they know, Shannon was right there in the marsh. Some residents of the gated community did come forward saying that they did see her where they saw a young girl who was barefoot running through town, their little community there. She seemed to have been like running from somebody. She was barefoot, she was yelling for help, and she was hiding under people's property in their backyard, like boats and stuff. And when they went out to ask her if she needed help, she just kind of took off. A 911 call was made at 4:51 a.m. And as far as I know, this phone call was actually never released to the public. But what we do know is that in the background of that 911 call, she was asking for that person's help. There was another voice that was heard in the 911 call. Now we know she was alive at 5:21 a.m. because that's when another neighbor called 911 saying that someone was pounding on her door screaming for help. The police didn't show up until about 5:40, and that's almost an hour after Shannon's original 911 call. The police that responded said that they had no idea about Shannon's 20-minute conversation with the 911 dispatcher, that they were responding to the other neighbor that called 20 minutes ago. Now it's said that Shannon refused, or not that she refused, but didn't tell the 911 dispatcher that was on the phone where she was located after numerous attempts of asking her. Because of this, Shannon's phone call or call for help was dispatched to the New York City Police Department. That's not by her. Some people say her demeanor in the phone call, those who heard it, she seemed very calm and didn't seem to be in any immediate threat. But other people that heard the recording said that she was in clear danger, that she is clearly saying that there's somebody after me, they're trying to kill me. That's pretty much saying that she's in really bad danger. Like, somebody needs to get there immediately and help her. An investigator said that there's clearly two male voices in the background, one in which he assumes is her driver Michael, and the other a man named Joseph Brewer, who we'll talk about later on. It's unclear whether or not they're trying to like grab her or touch her or get close to her, but they seem to have done something to her which made her scream and take off yet again. They also said that she seemed very manic, which, she's bipolar, would make sense. They said that she was either under some kind of narcotic or she was in a psychological state of mind. We're gonna jump ahead 7 months when a police officer was walking along the Moses Causeway with his canine dog that they were doing some sort of training, and the canine became very interested in a burlap bag. If you've never been to Long Island, this road is pretty much how you get to the beaches like Fire Island or Jones Beach or any of those. Now, what's inside this burlap bag, Jessie, you may be asking? Well, let me tell you. Inside the burlap bag were human remains. This started a huge search throughout the beach there. A few days went by and they found 3 more bodies. Then a few months went by and they found 4 more. Police assumed that they had a crazy serial killer on the loose and wanted to take action immediately. Nassau County started working on the investigation with nearby police department Suffolk County. And the New York State Police also was involved as well. Nassau County also uncovered partial remains, which included that of a human skull, and I believe teeth also. Now, I don't know if y'all can count, but that is 10 bodies. I will state that some of these bodies were never identified, including that of a female and what seemed to be her toddler baby that was right next to her. And finally, on December 13th, 2011, police found Shannon. Shannon was found about a half a mile away from where she made her 911 call and where nearby residents recalled seeing her running. The FBI soon decided they should probably join the party in about a few years, 2015 to be exact. Now, why did 5 years go by without the FBI's help, you say? I'll let the cat out of the bag later on in the video. They claimed that Shannon's death was due to a misadventure or a drowning because of where she was found. But in 2016, her family decided to hire somebody to do a second autopsy. The examiner that did this autopsy made a specific statement saying that there is no evidence whatsoever that Shannon Gilbert died from a drug overdose, which was one theory. There was absolutely no evidence that she died of a drowning, which was another theory. And there was also no evidence that Shannon died from natural causes. He said there is clear evidence that he found which is consistent with strangulation and consistent with a homicide. Let's start off by talking about Dr. Peter Hackett, which, if you've heard about this case, you know this name very well. Let's take. I didn't highlight. Alright, fingers crossed. Let's hope it doesn't screw it up. So Dr. Peter Hackett was a local to the Oak Beach area. He actually lived near the area where Shannon was found. So Dr. Peter Hackett, he lived near the Oak Beach area where Shannon's body was found. He was a world-renowned altitude expert. I had to look it up. He pretty much was an outdoors doctor for the wilderness. He was also an emergency physician, and I did read some reports that stated that he was the doctor who said that Shannon's cause of death was because she drowned. He claimed at that time that he never met Shannon. He had no idea who she was, but that would later come to be a straight up lie, and his neighbors would be the one to throw him under the bus, saying that it's been a while since he actually knew her, that she visited his house or frequented his house multiple times. It has been proven that Peter Hackett actually called Shannon's mother after she disappeared, and this was actually before her mother reported her missing. Even though Dr. Peter Hackett completely denied everything, when he called Shannon's mother, he said, "I run a home for wayward girls." I think that means like girls that are in trouble or found to be in trouble. And he was telling her that he gave Shannon some drugs to help her relax. And like I said, this is before Shannon's mother even reported her missing, so he done fucked up. Can we just appreciate, don't mind my fingerprints. Can we just appreciate this packaging? Oh, God, it's so beautiful. So after becoming a suspect, he said he did remember seeing her. And that when he saw her running, and that he offered her to come inside. But when Shannon came inside, he said that he did not treat her, which would later, just look at it. Oh, just look at it. But which would later lead to a wrongful death lawsuit against him. Gorgeous. But that was ultimately dismissed. Next, let's talk about James Burke, who, in my opinion, is the most guilty of them all. He has the most evidence piled up against him, I feel like. And if he didn't do the murders himself, he definitely helped cover them up. This guy is a shade ball. James comes from a family, a well-decorated family of police officers. And after Shannon's body was found, I think I went a little two-hand there. After Shannon's body was found, he was appointed as chief of police in Suffolk County. Now, you may be asking, Jessie, why does this guy have anything to do with the serial killer? He's a police officer. Let me tell you, he has everything to do with it, in my opinion. Let me tell you why. Former sex workers came forward and said that he frequently visited the area where Shannon's body was found, along with the other girls. And this was in a nearby gated community where the doctor lived, by the way, just a side note. The girls were always there at parties which had lots of drugs, lots of alcohol, and lots of prostitution. He was said to be very rough and at times would choke them and force them to do things that they didn't really want to, but only did to get paid. And then he would proceed to throw money at them. Calling them whores and that they're no good for anything. And this character was also caught having sex while he was working in a marked police vehicle. Now, this man was pretty high on the totem pole in the police department. So he had a lot of power over a lot of people. There's also some fingers being pointed that he was involved in drug trafficking as well. And he also denied FBI's help for 5 years. with the Long Island serial killer, which suggested to me that he was hiding something. He was hiding the information for the serial killer, or he just had some dirty laundry he didn't want aired out. Like, what were you protecting that you didn't want the FBI to find out? He is currently serving a sentence for beating up a guy for stealing a duffel bag out of his car. What was in the duffel bag, you ask? Well, it was full of no magazines and toys. Not the toys you're thinking of. And it was also said that after this whole incident, he went and tried to bribe multiple police officers to not talk or to just drop the case or the charges against him. And then he also bribed multiple witnesses so they wouldn't go and talk to the police about it. No sir, no how, not today, your ass gonna get in trouble. So this opened up a whole big bag of worms for him, and it not only led to his resignation for the police department, but it would also tell if the police department was full of corruption. Like, who was helping this guy cover it up? He couldn't have been doing it himself. I can leave a link down below so you guys can look at that current case that's going on with him if you guys want. But he completely dismantled this case of the serial killer. He denied any FBI involvement in the case for 5 freaking years. 5 years. But after the FBI got involved, they would open up so many boarded windows and closed doors in this police department on him and all his police buddies. It was said that he may or may not have dabbled in some drug use as well. And he is also said to have paid for some sex workers himself for hanging out, of course. Not, not him, never. But let's move on. Next up was John Bitroff, I believe is how you say his last name. John is from Long Island himself. Hold on, I can't focus. He was convicted in 2017 for the murder of 2 women that happened in 94 and 93. One of his victims' names were Rita Tangretti, and she was best friends with one of the women that were identified that was found on Gilgo Beach, known as Melissa Bartholomew. Melissa's mother had come forward and stated that her phone records had some phone calls to that area where John lived and where he worked. The girls were known to work together sometimes, Melissa and Rita. So the fact that both of these girls are now dead really looks towards John as the suspect. Now we have Michael Pack as well, who was Shannon's driver. This guy is just a complete mystery to me. There's not much about him to know, considering he was with Shannon when she disappeared, at least for a brief moment of time. There are some reports of him being seen as well in the area, especially when Shannon was banging on doors. People have said that they saw a black SUV with an Asian male driving it, driving down the roadway, stopping and going very slow as if he were looking for somebody. Michael was never linked to any of the murders, but I still think that he is super fishy, so I'm gonna keep my eye on him. Now, there are some recent updates with this case. The police just came forward and said that they found a piece of evidence most recent update that was given to us was a piece of evidence that was found near the bodies. Most of the evidence is undisclosed to the public, but recently the police came forward with this piece because they believe that it belonged to the serial killer himself. This piece of evidence was a black leather belt with the letters WH or HM, depending on however you hold it. I could be stretching here a bit, but I did look into Dr. Hackett's family, and I noticed that his grandparents, it would be like his father's parents, their names were Winfield and Hackett. Now this would be in like the early 1900s, and if I'm not wrong or mistaken, that's a W and that's an H. Maybe this belt was some type of family heirloom or something. It's not weird, right? Am I stretching? I don't know. I thought it makes sense. But let's get down to my opinion. So I think multiple people were involved in this. I don't think it was the work of one man or woman. Here you have a police officer, a doctor who was well known, a person who owned a home in the area, and if you needed to, a getaway vehicle. All these guys hung out in the same gated community at these parties where it was said that there was lots of drugs, lots of alcohol, and prostitution. And we know that at least 3 of these men were involved in the Craigslist ad prostitution ring. Now, if you want to remember, that's Michael, which is the driver, that's James, and that's John. So where does that leave Dr. Peter Hackett in all this? To me, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But he was at least involved in making a weird phone call to Shannon's mother. To me, totally unnecessary. Is there a reason behind that phone call? I don't know. But what I do know is that there were 11 bodies found at Gilgo Beach area, and someone needs to start talking. Below, I will leave a link to where you guys can go and see pictures of some of the victims that were identified, along with some of the victims that were not identified yet, and some of their belongings, such as jewelry that they found next to them. Maybe, just maybe, you can help solve the case. With that, guys, I thank you for stopping by today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment and let me know who you think might have done it. I'll see you guys later.